Howdy, buckaroos. Sure, we'll go with that. A whole lot has happened since I last made a video about a month ago, and now seems like a good time to touch base with the Tier 2 and Tier 3 Siegeverse. We've just had the second of our 3 Challenger League qualifiers, and they were just bonkers. But before I get to that, let's just quickly summarise everything that's happened since early August. So, Activity won Benelux in a church, Necro Razors 1v4 in a Poland, the entire Berlin Major happened and EU are back on top, and Wild won GSA Finals in a Hamburger. I think I got all of that right. Also, Transfer Madness hit big this window, so now virtually every Tier 3 team are shooketh up. And why is that? Well, Stage 3 of EUL is up and running, and the Northern Premier League is now officially the EUL recruitment programme. Leader and Skiddy are already tearing up EUL in Navi's win over Rogue. Astro and Grubby had decent debuts for Secret despite losing. 6 out of 10 EUL sides could now compete in MPL if they fancied getting relegated to UKIN by some Nixon team. To be fair to other regions, Mello and Licky, that guy, both had exceptional debuts, so I have to reluctantly give some credit to the French League too. But let's just step back for a little bit and focus on Challenger League itself and try to make sense of this thing. After our second qualifier at the weekend, those ranking points got divvied up and we know a few things for certain, but now having had some extra time to digest it all, there are some hilarious ramifications for certain teams and a bit more perspective on some of the drama that unfolded between those games. So with 2 more spots from MPL finals just around the corner and a third and final qualifier looming, let's go over the winners and losers of the second Challenger League Open qualifier. We'll start with the winners. These are a bit easier to go over, and it's mostly MPL. 10-star. This is the obvious one. Their first place finish was not a certainty after losing their IGL, and they bottled a total of 12 match points over their final 2 games, but 125 points total over 2 qualifiers confirmed their spot even before the final match against M&M Academy began. It's been a long time coming for the team often touted as next up. Viperia 86 could have just not turned up after winning the first qualifier, but they came along anyway and got 10 points out of it, and at the end of the weekend, they were also 100% confirmed for Challenger League. The loss of both main fraggers in Astro and Grubby at the same time to Team Secret did tempt me to put these guys in the losers column, and their performance this time around will maybe indicate a little bit of a slip. But with CL around the corner and a fair amount of rebuilding to do, they have done this before, so maybe they can do it again. Also in the winners column are M&M Academy. Of course, they came second in this qualifier, but there's so much more to it than that. Let's talk maths. I've done a whole load of working here. I'm going to stick it up on screen probably here so you can pause and read through it properly. The bottom line is that they're basically qualified for Challenger League. There are 5 very precise things that have to happen in the final qualifier for them not to make it. But more than that, if 10-star and Viperia 86 qualify for Challenger League through MPL, then M&M Academy also qualify at the same time. We could have a game in MPL where 3 teams qualify for Challenger League at once. It's insane. Oh, man. Feel free to go over my maths, but having checked with M&M Academy IGL Nerf, his maths also lines up with mine. So yeah, M&M Academy, the 7th best side in MPL, are a Challenger League team for all intents and purposes. Coalesce couldn't keep them out a third time. Last on my winners list is Viali Patoni, and I realise at this point that I've just chosen the top 4 in the current overall rankings. So with the various members of the ex-Empire or E+4 lineup finally retaking their deserved spots in EUL, Viali Patoni have emerged and cemented themselves as this year's strongest Russian Tier 2 side. They've been consistent and successful and realistically only need another 10 points from the final qualifier to make it in. I'm not doing the maths on this one right now, I'm all mathed out. Just ask me before the qualifier starts. But now we get on to the losers, and this is the fun part. Top of my losers list is Victus. But why, you ask? They managed to reach the top 4. They were only bested by 10-star. True. But, according to Liquipedia, the 15 points that they acquired from the first qualifier, where they competed with both a sub and their coach, have been deducted. There's no official word on this from Ubisoft or Faceit admins yet, but Liquipedia editor's interpretation of the rulebook does match my own. There are a number of teams much further down the standings that have been hit by similar news, but this one could really end up mattering if Victus slip up at the end of the month. But that's not the juicy part here. The tipping point in this ruling is YZN, a player who had formed the core of this roster for over a year alongside Oscar and Skyty, who made the transfer to arch-rivals 10-star during the recent window. He played Qualifier 1 with Victus, crossed the floor, and then played and won Qualifier 2 with 10-star, even beating his old team in the semi-finals. So just to put everything together here, not only did 10-star gatekeep Victus with the poached YZN, They effectively poached Victus's points in the process. Just so ridiculous. It's not over for Victus, as they are competing for one of 2 Challenger League spots in the MPL finals, but with a sub in place of their main support Skeptic, who incidentally is an ex-10-star player. The one saving grace here is that Viperio 86 look arguably weaker than they have done it in a while. I could talk about Victus all day, but we've got more losers to go through. Team Alpha looked really hot in GSA League and at the LAN finals, but they're MIA right now. The surprise departure of Pangoro might have had an impact, but they got knocked out so early on in the bracket that we didn't even see them on stream. They've got to show up at the next qualifier. But now we're on to the biggest losers, Italy! Damn, did Italy have a qualifier to forget. Now, there are 2 reasons for this. We'll start with the smaller one. So first of all, new matchco. German gunner Doom finally made the jump to EUL, filling a spot on Heroic, and left EDS, who made top 4 in the first qualifier, to split up, wiping their points. This led Pacbel and Hoshti to join Italian side matchco, who also made enough changes to warrant a clean slate. Any side with that duo in could be expected to make a dent in the standings, but top 16 and a 15-point total was the best they could muster. So I'm just putting new matchco in the losers column because I expected more of them, honestly. But now on to the big one. It's been way too long since a big cheating drama in Siege, if you ask me, and boy did Webadoo Gaming deliver. They managed to reach the quarterfinals, beating 10-star, before a protest from the losing side resulted in Webadoo Gaming being disqualified for account sharing. And trust me when I say that is only the half of it.
If I speak, I am in big trouble.
Unfortunately, the teams they took down along the way in Ambush, Viperio 86 and Outplayed didn't receive any recompense. And while that ended up not mattering for 86, the other 2 might feel pretty hard done by. We still have no official statement from the 3rd best team in PG Nats. That concludes the losers list. Deathrow, Jailings and Coalesce look like the best of the rest, with a solid 50 points to their names and consistent runs despite all making roster changes. They may not need much more in Qualifier 3 to make it, but I could absolutely see one of those at least falling at the final hurdle. If Coalesce manage to make it, then we could see a potential 5 NPL sides in Challenger League. If Ambush and Sissy State Punks make the final, then that goes up to 7, but I'm not holding my breath. Outside of Challenger League, we have the French League finals coming up this weekend, but as previously mentioned, the French are weird and they do their CL spots via the league stage, and that's already gone to 3-2-1 Sked. So those finals are all about the moolah, and Wolves are probably just going to sweep it anyway. The Northern Premier League finals, however, actually mean something, and are now functionally a Victus gatekeeping party. The terrible twosome of Viperio 86 and 10-star are there to steal Victus's lunch money, and even have their poor, overworked older brother in Heroic to hold Victus up by the ankles while the twins force feed them worms. Okay, maybe it won't be that one-sided, but the seeding does suggest that Victus will be fighting for their lives relatively early as they're drawn against Heroic in the first best of 3. My personal predictions puts them down there in that lower bracket semi with Viperio 86, and maybe they make it out of there alive, especially since Viperio 86 have very little to fight for besides MPL money itself. Challenger League itself, still up in the air. Still no clarity on format or promotions. The LATAM announcement has been made. The question is, will NA and EU follow suit as implied? Or will they have their own variation on it? I had a massive rant scripted, but this video is already long and I figured we'd get the news pretty soon, so I've cut that. Suffice to say, it will take a lot to convince me that the best way for the esport to move forward is to remove promotions. And that, whoa, fucking hell. That just about covers it for another video. If you enjoyed it, then do all the things you usually do. Tell a friend. Push the button. Let me know before I get the rock. And go, you better miss the freaking